online and via the Community Radio Plus app.
This is Southern FM.
88.3 Southern FM.
And we are about to have another wonderful interview. I am so lucky, having worked in this industry for so long, with some of the marvellous people that I've met and had the fortune to work with. I'm going to play you a tiny bit of music. Let's have a listen to this, because the dear Kate Herbert has been writing for years. Oh my God, this brings back... And what's that you're all saying? Pretty funky. So Kate has a partner who writes brilliant music for her. And during 2020, we did Panda-Effing Monium, a COVID musical. My goodness, I couldn't stop singing those damn lyrics forever. How are you, Kate?
I'm well, thank you.
How?
It was my nephew who wrote the music for the songs. I wrote the lyrics and he wrote the
fantastic.
The music and recorded it in Tassie. We did it all remotely, if you remember. COVID musical, Pande-Effing-Demic, Panda-Effing Monium by remote control.
Yeah.
And Kate, I'm going to say hello, William Bond. Just hello, Kate.
Hello, William.
Yeah, well, it was almost, 2020 you wrote that.
Yeah,
now,
it was.
Some history about Kate, because I was just going to talk about La Mama. They've just run the Seniors Festival there. And the last play that Kate wrote, which was extraordinary, was about the dire straits and all the stress that her dear sister went through with a lung transplant. And I think it's very important for all of us to recognise that something can be achieved out of this. I remember when we were first reading it as a workshop in progress, and I remember saying to you that for me, the actual lung, which was a character in the play, was the one that made me cry, because it had so much to say about its personal life journey and what it was going to offer your sister.
Yeah, well, actually, sorry, just to correct you, it was another family member, not a sister, but that's
and again, tyranny of time.
Yeah, tyranny of time. And also the play changed completely from the time we did that early reading. It was a 30-minute radio play that was commissioned by the Victorian Seniors Festival and was never actually produced because their budget for their radio reimagined was completely cut, just disappeared. So I thought, well, let's do a radio play on stage. And it went through 17 drafts and became a stage version, and the lung became two lungs.
Oh, great.
The two-character play that was just the lungs and the woman, just called Woman, became the woman, her partner, her mother, two lungs, left and right, as my director, Nancy Black, said, why is it only one lung? And I said, well, I don't know, let's try two.
Yes.
And then we had a couple of doctors, so fewer doctors, much less medical stuff, much less lyrical, poetic stuff, and more onto the trauma of
the personal side of it all.
And the personal thing of how you deal with. She was a lawyer who had to give up her life and suddenly, didn't realise she had this lung disease, suddenly was in this dire situation. The carer's fatigue is really important in this story. The mother feeling, was it my fault? Did I not do something?
Yes.
The woman doing, this isn't fair. And the waiting for the lung transplant and the whole lung transplant business becomes the thing at the end of the tunnel while they're dealing with all the other changes in the life that happens when one faces such, climactic sort of
such trauma and such drama in our lives. And of course, I think what a lot of people don't realise when they see these stage plays at places like La Mama and Carlton Courthouse and Chapel off Chapel is how long the history often is that goes into the actual writing of these productions. How many people come together and volunteer their own personal time to assist with the creativity, to give an input of ideas until it and unfortunately, as you were saying, with the funding being taken out, that's sort of happening in so many of the arts industries these days. Such a shame.
Take me back, Kate. Sorry, Kate. Keep going. Sorry.
Go ahead, William.
No, I was just going to say, take me back in your years. Obviously, you've entered this career, and which is fantastic. When did you sort of realise that you had this sort of talent?
Oh, sometimes there are moments when I've looked at things on stage and thought, what have I done? I've written rubbish and I'm making people watch it and pay for it. So, but
well, it's not that bad.
Time, I think I've got it. I think I've hit it. But I did start. my family were more into music and singing in my childhood.
Right.
So going into theatre came a bit later for me because we didn't have that sort of thing at my school.
Yep.
I ended up doing drama teaching and then doing a postgrad in further drama, then working in a theatre and education company, which was big in the days when there was money for community theatre and theatre that went into schools, and we toured.
Yeah.
I was doing 3 shows a day, 15 shows a week for a couple of years when that was still permitted by Actors Equity.
That
and
was
then I
that was
started
so
writing
important.
and
Sorry to interrupt you, Kate, but that was so important, wasn't it? That writers were able to take, because so many kids who live in the country can't come into the theatre to see shows, but for writers to be able to write their particular pieces, which are about Australian identities and backgrounds and people coming into the country, and to be able to take it out to country schools and share it with those kids and get them inspired about what the art of theatre is and what storytelling is all about.
And these days it's not common because schools don't have the money or can't ask the families for the money. But I must say that I did see yesterday, we were in at the Botanical Gardens, the children's garden at the Botanical Gardens had a celebration of its 20th birthday yesterday, and they had which is a well-known
I know Polyglot, yes.
theatre. They had these giant bees, it's a bit scary-looking giant bees, helping the children make bee wings out of brown paper. So that sort of thing is still happening, that sort of company.
Wonderful.
But a lot of the companies are working in theatres or travelling overseas and not going out to the schools out in Dimboola and Wagga. And, we used to go on away to the Adelaide Festival. So that was quite a really good apprenticeship, really, doing lots and lots of shows in rep, really, for kids who are a very harsh audience. If you can't entertain them, you're in trouble. So they'll let you know. So the writing and directing started there, and then I did do a lot of improvisation for years. I did stand-up comedy. I did improvisation. I did a thesis in improvising full-length plays in the style of Shakespeare. I know that sounds mad.
Oh, no, I know that. That was hysterical.
And we did do some tragedies as well. Some of them were comic, but I tried to figure out ways of using iambic pentameter and training people to do that while they're improvising.
Kate, does your inspiration come late at night time? You sort of wake up about 3 a.m. and go, oh, that's an idea. I'll write something about that.
I think, I tell you when I have a lot of ideas. In fact, Panda-Effing Monium came to me while I was on my, state-sanctioned walks during COVID, where I'd walk around the park for an hour, and I'd start singing songs and singing them into my phone, and that was when the first song came. But the other one is in the shower. I mean, literally in the shower. I think, oh, quick, I've got to get out and write that down or type it up. And sometimes just as I'm falling asleep rather than waking up in the night. So I used to sometimes I find things written on the edge of the crossword. I have the newspaper beside me and I'm going, what the hell did that say at 11 o'clock last night?
There's nothing worse in the shower when you're jumping out and you're full of soap suds and you're trying to write something down. It's a bit difficult sometimes.
To keep it in my head till I can get out. I do that with my review writing too. So as Maureen knows, but you may not, I also review theatre. My other gig is reviewing, which I did for one of the papers for decades, and these days it's my blog and also for another radio station.
Because you still do online reviews, don't you, Kate?
I still do online reviews on my blog, and so I often find a solution either driving home from the show and I figure out what I'm going to say, what's the beginning, or I'm in the shower the next morning. I think, oh, quick, I've got the opening paragraph, get out, and I have to keep running it in my head until I can get it down. But with the scripts, when I'm writing a play, I remember writing a play called Hit and Run. I don't know if you saw Hit and Run, Maureen.
I didn't know, but I do. That was in 2001, I think.
Yeah,
somewhere around
there. There were
there.
a couple of iterations, and it was studied on the VCE curriculum. But I remember thinking before I wrote that, what would be the worst or one of the worst things that could happen to someone? And I thought, a toddler dying in an accident, losing a child.
Yes.
And I thought, that's my starting point. And I've done that with a couple of plays, and sometimes I pick things up from a news item or what used to be an odd spot in The Age or something. And when I get stuck, and I do this when I'm teaching playwriting, I suggest to my students, just lie on the couch and think of 5 impossible or improbable things that might happen at this point in the play. Kate,
when you do write, does it flow easily out?
Yes.
It does,
Yes. I do plan, though. I don't just... I know some playwrights who literally just sit down with an idea and type. I've heard of a major playwright from the UK who does that. And I'm a planner. I set out the plan. But I'm happy to throw it away and rejig it once I've written the draft. I can be absolutely ruthless with my darlings and throw them away. But once I'm sitting down, there's a flow state, I call it. Well, it's known as. I sit down and I just start writing. And because of all the improvising I've done, I think I can hear the dialogue in my head and I can hear the characters talking. And I also, during the COVID, when I wrote Pande-Effing-Demic, the script of it, I improvised all the characters into my phone.
While you were walking in the park, strolling in the park.
I just love the name. I think it's fantastic.
Oh, well, the names.
Pande-Effing-Demic.
Kate, yes, I know, and I couldn't stop singing those silly songs for ages after that. I'd be going for a walk and they'd be popping into my head. But you've done some really good ones like Sex, Drugs and Walking Frames, which I seem to remember.
You were in.
I was in, yes, a long time ago. It was so much fun.
And I tell you who was one of my sort of a mentor and feedback. I had worked as an assistant director at the MTC all those years ago, and Warren Mitchell, do you remember from Till Death Us Do Part, the English actor?
Oh, yes, yes.
He was doing his show here.
Gosh.
He's doing I'm Not Rappaport. And I talked to him about the idea, and the idea of this play came from a real story of these men in a nursing home who'd contracted syphilis from the tea lady.
Maureen now we're going to speak. Yes, I had a role in that. No, I mean, not a role in it, but a role in the play, yes.
In the play, not in the, yes. But that was a real story, and I thought, oh, what a great story. And I
does that happen? I wonder if that happens a lot of times.
But the thing is, quite often what are the most interesting stories are the ones that people think are fake, that are made up.
Yeah,
and the journey of human life is so vast that anything we write about somewhere on this planet has occurred. And if you put it down into words, who would believe it when they were sitting in La Mama Theatre? Yes, that was so much fun.
Oh, it's true. And as I said, when I assisted on this thing with Warren Mitchell, he said, look, send it to me, send it to England, to my agent when you've written it. And I wrote it, and he read it, and he wrote back, which I thought was marvellous, and he said, they're too nice to each other. He wrote in his long letter, they're too bloody nice to each other. Oh,
did you say bloody? Oh, my goodness. Do you speak like that? Are you still teaching? You're still teaching writing, playwriting?
Yeah, teaching playwriting. I do that the first half of the year, but these years, since COVID, it's all online. I don't even have to drive down Punt Road.
Oh, yeah. Do you find that work? Do you find that works though with the kids? When you say online, is it Zoom or?
Yeah, it's Zoom.
Zoom. Excellent. Yeah.
There are some who are silent, but I try and you get around things, making them write things into the chat and things. But getting them to write a 10-minute play at several drafts and develop 10 minutes, 3 characters, single location, keep it simple. And work on all the technique until they get a draft, and then they get in the final draft.
How fantastic.
It does work online. I do prefer to be in a classroom, but it is a relief to just do that, not have to leave the house.
Yeah. Oh,
I've
so
in fact
cool.
been teaching them this afternoon.
Does it get confusing sometimes, Kate, when you have sort of multiple thoughts or multiple ideas about writing plays, for example?
Yeah, it does, and I keep a list, William, and I haven't done a
wow.
lot of... I used to do one new play a year, and I'd have a list, and I remember a movement teacher, Lyndall Jones, I worked with at what was called Melbourne CAE all those years ago, said it's not a lack of ideas artists suffer from, it's choice, selection.
Right.
And so she said she worked through one after the other, and she called them prediction piece 1, prediction piece 2, 3, 4, up to 10 or 11. So I just write them down and keep them, and sometimes I think I might go back to my list and see what's still there. And sometimes I have an idea like, what would the Scottish play be like if you set it in Australia in a contemporary environment, just the concept of power and overthrowing a leader and things like that. And I thought, well, that's probably happening in every government, in every corporation, every day.
Exactly.
I love what you just said. That brought back such fond memories about the Scottish play, which we shall not name. But I know there used to be a tradition years ago that if one did actually name the Scottish play, one was then sent outside of the theatre and you had to, what was it, turn around three...
You turn around 3 times.
3 times.
Knock on the door and be invited back in.
Yes, I remember it.
I was about to go on stage. I was with Christine Keogh. We were about to do theatre sports many years ago at, I can't remember which theatre. Yep. And I was literally in the wings. We were minutes from going on. And I said it. And she looked at me and she said, get out.
Sent you out.
Kate, I ran out.
Look, those memories are wonderful. Kate, we're going to have to head off now, but I just want to share with everyone before we go, because we did have an ad before about organ donors, and I carry around in my purse, where it can be found if I'm in a car accident, both my Australian blood donor and my organ donor cards. I've probably had them for about 25 years. And people say, why have you got it? And I say, well, an accident can happen and someone needs my blood or my resources. Anyway, darling, it's been
Kate, thank
wonderful.
You. Absolutely fabulous to talk to you. We would like to do this again if we can in the near future.
Absolutely.
If you would like to.
I'm happy. I would be very happy to. Let me know.
Excellent.
Kate, take care. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks, Kate.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Good night.
88.3 Southern